He's a successful entrepreneur, an early investor in crypto projects, an early adopter of Bitcoin, and the host of one of the crypto world's largest weekly Twitter spaces, the Roundtable. His name is Mario Nawfal, and he's got an absolutely brilliant accent. Mario joins us today to discuss the future of Web3, Bitcoin, NFTs, and so much more. We're awful, he's Nawfal, and this is episode number 625 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
And welcome to the Bad Crypto Podcast, where today we're going to welcome Mario.
Actually, Joe, I don't know if you knew this or not, but we changed the name just for this episode. It's the Awful Crypto Podcast.
The Nawfal Crypto Podcast.
Well, that's our guest today is Mario Nawfal, but we're the Awful Crypto Podcast because we wanted to move up from BA to AW. It moved us up in the alphabet just a little bit, a little scooch.
Just a scooch. Just a scooch.
Just a scooch.
Rather. Mario is an interesting character, and he has really worked it. He and his team have worked really hard to create this weekly Twitter space that I think they had over 30,000 people come through yesterday's space. They do them every Thursday. I want to say around 2 o'clock Eastern time or so. The one the previous week went on for 6 hours, and they break it down by hour and topics. They invite people, leaders in the show, in the world, to come on and talk about different topics. You and I have been invited to come on and talk NFTs multiple times. But I was
on the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, I got to say the yesterday's featured a 1 hour or so debate between Tone Vase, who is not to be confused with Tone Loc, even though he does have some funky cold Bitcoiner. He is a Bitcoin maximalist, and Richard Hart of Hex. It was heated.
We had both of them on the show, actually, so that's nice.
It was heated, man. It was something else. And look, I am not smart enough to know who's right. I'm just not. I listen to these guys. They both make good points, but man, Richard's approach is just so condescending. Like, I think he could win more people over if he would ditch the look at me vibe and I'm the best vibe, because it doesn't, it's not effective. I mean, it's only effective to fanboys.
He enjoys it. I don't think he cares. He's got a F ton of money.
Yeah, but who? So what?
Yeah.
So what?
That's what I think. He's like, so what? I don't care if people like me.
Yeah, but I mean,
then he does care if people like him. That's the whole thing. When we interviewed him, like, he really cares what people think. But
it's not impressive. It's none of it. None of the style is oppressive. When he brings the substance and he brings his knowledge, not to be confused with Mario Nawfal. When he brings his knowledge, whether right or wrong, at least he comes off like, listen to me. But when he gets talking about, his Lambo or his new Rolex, or it's like, who cares?
Right.
I first of all, if you or I wanted to buy whatever, we could buy whatever. I don't want whatever because I'm not flashy. But if I was, I wouldn't go about bragging about it. And he, several times on this, he like demeans and talks down to people and just focuses on money. And it's bizarre.
Yeah, it is a little bizarre. You know who's not bizarre? Is our next guest. He's pretty awesome.
Luigi.
He may be Nawfal, but he's actually awesome.
He is pretty awesome. Here's Mario Nawfal. On our journeys along this blockchain highway, not to be confused with the information superhighway, though the blockchain highway does run its rails on the information superhighway, a subset of it, if you will, perhaps a thoroughfare. Anyway, I digress. We run across interesting people doing interesting things, and one of them is here with us today with quite a story to tell and making quite a bit of noise, especially in the crypto Twitter space. His name is Mario Nawfal, and he's here with us now. Mario, welcome to the Bad Crypto Podcast.
What's up, man? How are you, Joel? How are you, Travis?
We are well, good sir, and I want to get to what you're doing in the spaces arena, because you are gathering together some massive audiences for very lengthy spaces. But why don't you go ahead and give everybody here in the Republic of Bad Cryptopia a little background on who you are and some of the things you've done.
Man, I like that you said it's lengthy. We had the last space went on for 6 hours, Joel, which is insane. Yeah, so I got into crypto in 2017 with IBC Group. That's how most people know me, which is now started off as a consulting firm, became a marketing agency, and now is more of an incubator. And then co-founded NFT Tech last year. No, over a year ago now. So the year before, which is now a public company in Europe and Canada. We've got the NFT ticker. And then I've got the Roundtable, which I started pre-Twitter back in Clubhouse days. So it used to be the biggest room on Clubhouse outside of crypto. And then I relaunched it on Twitter. And now we get tens of thousands of live listeners, by far the biggest space. And we got a lot of debates and a lot of heated discussions about interesting topics. So we do it once a week right now on Twitter. Were you there for yesterday? Not yesterday, last week's one, Joel? Did you see the heated one last week?
I did not get to make it. I was tied up with some other things. I meant to keep slipping in, and then something else arose. You know how it is. But I do intend to.
That was insane. Like it was so awkward at the beginning. I literally didn't. I've hosted rooms. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people. In the first few minutes, I just froze because I started. As soon as it started, we had someone that's very outspoken come on from the Bitcoin maximalism side. It was a Bitcoin maximalist, and then immediately started, attacking different people. We had people jump off. People couldn't debate him. It started off as a shit show and then became an incredible show that lasted 6 hours. Probably our best show yet.
Wasn't shitty at all.
No, it was really good, but the first few minutes were pretty heated.
So right when you started the show, the Bitcoin maximalist was going off, huh?
Yeah, so I started the show, and there was going to be a segment about Bitcoin maximalism, because a lot of people in the NFT community don't know, the Bitcoin OGs from pre-2018, let's say, Bitcoin, Jesus, and all these guys, and then all the rivalries back then. So I wanted to bring them onto this show and get their perspective on NFTs. And I added one jumped on early, and we brought him on stage early, probably the most outspoken one, and immediately started shitting on everyone in the NFT community and with very technical arguments. And then people started jumping off the stage because they're like, Mario, we don't know the technical aspects. We're not ready to debate him. Another person got offended, but then we eased it off and it went extremely smoothly afterwards.
Was it Jimmy Song?
No. Jimmy Song wasn't on. We were talking to him about bringing him on. We did bring his.
He shit all over us during one episode, which was really nice.
Holy shit! I want to bring him on because I like.
He's a great dude, but he's very technically sound, so he's dropping knowledge, and you're going, okay, well, I can see your point of view, but digital ownership is going to be huge, and NFTs are that. Yeah, but you don't even need it because like he'll go off. So some of those Bitcoin maxis, they are their own sort of vibe, aren't they?
Yeah, and the guy we brought is his sidekick, not sidekick at all. His partner. They used to do a podcast together. I can't believe I forgot his name. I'll remember it, but he was not the one. The one we brought, I won't even say his name, just because he's got a lot. Tone Vase is the other one that we brought later on, but Tone Vase is really good. There were still heated arguments between Tone Vase and the NFT community, and Tone actually made a lot of good points. But the conclusion, surprisingly, I was surprised. The conclusion was everyone was on the same page. The conclusion was they're Bitcoin maximalists. So in their mind, NFTs make sense. They think PFPs are overpriced. That's very subjective. It's very hard to tell, very hard to price things. The market prices things. So they think PFPs are overpriced, but the concept of digital ownership makes a lot of sense to them. They just think the reason they don't like current NFTs is because they're not on the Bitcoin blockchain. They're on the Ethereum and Solana and other blockchains, the Flow blockchain and stuff.
Oh, so cry me a river.
Yeah, so, but they see the value of the technology, and then in the end, Tone agreed. And again, Jimmy Song and Tone Vase, I used to listen to them years ago. Tone agreed that if Ethereum could be heading in the right path, especially with Vitalik leading it the right way. So even though he's not investing in Ethereum, he doesn't think it will succeed. He also thinks there's a very high possibility it will succeed, which is really surprising to hear. And he said how he thinks it could succeed and the current path. I think from memory, he was optimistic on the current path they're taking with ETH 2.0.
Fascinating. So you mentioned that you started out, you were doing some, I recall on Clubhouse, you had some really large Clubhouse meetings over there that just went on and on and on. How long were you on Clubhouse, and do you still do your meetups over there on Clubhouse at all, or is Clubhouse kind of dying?
Oh, it's dead. So I stopped Clubhouse completely. It was a very high profile argument I had with the founders. The press was over it. But I was there only for a month. But in that month, we used to have 10,000 people listening to us a day. I used to do really long rooms every day. So what I do every week now on Twitter Spaces, no joke, I would do more than that every day. For a month. So I actually paused working on all my companies, which was luckily wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't a problem because I wasn't, I'll pretty hand off anyway. The team ran it. So I was just purely on Clubhouse. I would wake up and sleep on Clubhouse for a month to really squeeze that lemon. And it yielded incredible results. In that month, about a third of podcasts I jump on, they would remember me from Clubhouse. And now we're doing the same thing with Twitter and LinkedIn Live.
Awesome. Well, do me a favor, Mario, go ahead and pull your input back a little bit just because your mic's distorting just a titch. And while you're doing that, I'll ask this question of you. You are an investor in Metaverse and NFT projects. So obviously you've got a view of Web3 that's very forward looking. I would like for you to go ahead and look forward into the future here and tell us what you see happening. How prolific will the NFT revolution be for brands and businesses and entrepreneurs, whether they are online or doing, brick and mortar businesses? Where's this all going?
So we are all Mark Zuckerberg's slaves. Facebook will own everything, and we are just gonna be doing whatever. And I'm just kidding. I'm actually pretty optimistic. First, is my mic okay?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah, so I'm pretty optimistic. So I think, but I'm also very I know that people, the human brain, and I've said this a lot. The human brain overestimates the short-term impact of innovation, but underestimates the long-term potential. And when I used to talk about this, it made a lot of sense a few months ago when there was a lot of hype, because I'm like, guys, there's way too much hype around the metaverse now. It will change many aspects of our lives, things we struggle to even imagine, but it will take extremely long. Or at least that was my assumption, even though I'm always proven wrong. Crypto moves so freaking fast. But now it's gonna, we kind of brought back to reality. A lot of people are still licking their wounds, and valuations fell off the earth, or the top of the earth, whatever the saying is. So I still make the same argument though, but now I'm like more focusing on the long-term potential rather than the short-term hype, because the short-term hype has died down. So I think in the short term, there's gonna be a place for closed metaverses or partially open metaverses, but it's important to realize that, and I made a tweet about this today, technologically, it's impossible for the metaverse to be closed, to be controlled by one entity. The same way the internet isn't controlled by one entity. The internet is an open protocol everyone could use. The metaverse will be the same because the open metaverse is being built on the blockchain. But the question is, how decentralized will it be? The internet is not really that decentralized. Web 2.0. We got the big guys, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, etc., controlling it. And I think we'll go down a similar path for the metaverse. I think those big guys will do a great job at delivering a great experience for users, and they'll get the most users. But long term, I'm more optimistic on the technology leading to a more open web. But I could be completely wrong, and we could just have Web 3.0 replicate what happened with Web 2.0, and then more companies making even more money. But I will say this, like the protocols that end up being the main protocols for the open metaverse, the amount of wealth that will migrate to those protocols is going to exceed most optimistic expectations, because you got so much wealth that will be moving to that virtual world, and so many aspects of our lives moving to that world.
So, it is interesting where we are right now in the Web3 world, because it seems like a lot of the Web3 world, it touts how, we're so decentralized, you own it. But venture capital seems to be the one infusing most of the money into Web3 at this time. And so maybe what is your sort of forecast on how do you think this is going to evolve over the next 3 to 5 years with VCs pouring so much money in? Does it end up going to be Web 2.0, 2.0?
But like we're going through the same. Do you guys remember in 2008 when the GFC hit, the global financial crisis?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how there was these big guys that just kept falling like dominoes, and we were all just prayed to whatever happened with them, if they were bailed out or not? But I think the Web3 world, we talk about decentralization and a more open economy, yet we're going through the exact same scenario, except the people bailing those institutions out are not governments. But we've had those big players in Web3. Now, again, these are centralized players, they're Web2 players, but they have so much wealth, they control so much Bitcoin or so much ETH, that what happens to them determines everything in the ecosystem. I remember we had one of our spaces about 2-3 weeks ago was meant to all be about NFTs and the metaverse. And the conclusion was everyone was too worried about Celsius. What's going to happen with Celsius? The majority of it, we had someone that's leading the bailout of Celsius. The majority of the space was talking about Celsius, what's going to happen to them and how that will impact the market. Well, here we are talking about an open metaverse and the NFT economy, democratizing the world, decentralizing the internet. Yet we're all sitting there talking about a central entity and how that will impact the entire ecosystem, including a DeFi platform that could be liquidated. It could determine what the outcome of multiple play-to-earn games that have nothing to do with no direct correlation with DeFi. So I think we're away from decentralization, and then that utopian world that we all hope for is either not going to be reached, because everything's still run by humans, the code is still written by humans, etc. Either is not going to be reached, or what I believe will take a lot longer to reach, but we could very likely get there.
So what are some of the exciting things that you're seeing? What's really got you engaged right now?
Play to earn. Like I was very but I was not bullish at all on play to earn games, which is, I think most audience members would know what that is. Just because of the valuations, and that, again, it was too early. The way they were structured was too pyramid scheme-ish, because the only way you could make money in a play to earn game, the only reason you'd go in the game is to make money. The only way you can make money is by new players coming in, because everyone wanted to make money. And that's how pyramid schemes are built, which was a problem that even play to earn games understood. I think Axie or an entity that was doing a study on Axie did a whole paper on this. And that's why you see all these games. We've had actually, Jiho from Axie come on our show a couple of times. I think he's coming tomorrow. Or after tomorrow, Thursday. And what Axie's focusing on now is the experience itself, people coming in to play. Instead of just to make money, they play to socialize or to signal a certain identity, or because they enjoy the game. So we're kind of seeing aspects of gaming, which is enjoyment, and aspects of our everyday life, which is socializing, signaling, meeting people, building relationships, etc., get built into those games from the early stages. Now, with this happening, I'm pretty bullish on those. I'm pretty bullish on in-game NFTs, and we're invested heavily in those. And decentralized games, I think if their tokenomics make sense, I think that those could be the next exciting frontier for us. I think we've had the PFP era come on. Play to earn is the next one, in my opinion, even though we've had a phase. I think in-game NFTs haven't had much attention. Tokens they have. In-game NFTs, not as much, at least for most games. Actually being one of the few ones that did get that attention. I'm also very bullish on social tokens. Not many people are talking about them. We saw BitClout, which is now rebranded to DeSo, Decentralized Social, did an experiment on this, did extremely in the early days, then dropped by 90 whatever %. So social tokens, I'm pretty bullish on. And then what was the last thing I was talking a lot? Something in-game NFTs, social token, and the concept. And this is going to be interesting for the audience. The concept of NFT flipping. Many people, said that similar to how ICO flipping died in 2017. It didn't really die. It just evolved into instead of ICOs, which for anyone that wasn't there in 2017, the massive bull run there and all the money flew into, flooded into ICOs, initial coin offerings, which are projects launching a token. But that just evolved into what we have now as IEOs and IDOs, which is a token immediately launched on a DEX, a decentralized exchange or a centralized exchange. So I think we'll have a similar evolution of NFTs from PFPs, profile pics, to any asset. Because if you think of what NFTs are simply digital assets. So anything could be turned, you got sneakers could be turned into an NFT, and people could start flipping sneakers and money flows into that. We saw ENS domains blew up over the last couple of weeks. I'm very bullish on ENS domains, .eth domains, for anyone that doesn't know. So we're going to see more and more anything that is flipped in the physical world, or that was flipped in the physical world over the past few decades. The same thing could migrate to the digital world. And I think we'll see different phases of NFT flipping. It just won't continue to be profile pics.
Yeah, it seems to me that the era of the JPEG cartoon is slowly being phased out, and more projects are popping out with a lot more utility. And utility is what's going to get people excited long term on these things, because they do stuff, they unlock things, they create new experiences for you, or they evolve over time. So maybe what are some of the projects or some of the things that you're looking at, as NFTs are evolving and this digital ownership are evolving? What are some of those things that are most exciting to you, or maybe some of the things that seem like they're more innovative than the previous era of PFPs?
Yeah, so I got a list that our team did. I try not to shield projects. I won't even mention projects we're invested in. I try to be very, very cautious of what projects I mention. But I'll give a list of top tier games that were mentioned by the team that we're looking at. And those games are already got a lot of VC funding. As I said, in-game assets are probably one of the most exciting things for me. So I'm going to give a list of names for listeners to check them out, and then do your own research. I'm not recommending anything. We're not even invested in some of them, but we could be investing in almost all of them. But you got Big Time, which is a big game they've got a very long timeline, but if they pull it off, it could be extremely valuable. They raise a lot of money. You've got Illuvium, Mirandus, you guys have talked about those. Echoes of Empire, Axie Infinity, of course, which I know Axie is very, it's already got pretty high valuation. But if they're I think they're doing the right thing. They're really focusing on, I think they're launching a free-to-play game. I'm not sure if they announced it yet. And they're focusing on the game itself rather than the money-making ability of the game. So instead of play to earn, everyone's shifting to play and earn. So you can earn, but that's not the only reason you play. And of course, you got others. You got Star Atlas is another one, Guild of Galaxies, Cetus Heroes, Phantom Galaxies, and Metal Core. So that's a list that we have here internally. I rarely share that list, but you've explicitly asked me for projects. Now, another thing we're looking at. Okay, so I can't disclose too much on this because my team will be very upset with me if I talk too much, and they don't give me too much information because they know right now I've got a big mouth. But I'll try to be very vague, but hopefully people get an indication of what our strategy is. I'll say this: you've got a lot of these NFT projects that launched. They've got a very solid community, very, very solid community, a great, great art. In some cases, a great vision, or maybe they've got a game being built, but the community is the most important aspect. But the people that launched it either don't know how to run a business, or they just had enough and they want to walk away. I'm just going to say that there is, what we do at IBC. And I'm being vague on purpose. What we do at IBC is we incubate projects. We build projects. I've been an entrepreneur well before crypto and built companies for almost 10 years now, or over 10 years now. So I think there's room for entrepreneurs with capital to collaborate with projects that actually you don't even need capital to collaborate or help projects that need that entrepreneurial help to build the business around it, because they've got the basics, which is the art and the community, which is really hard to achieve. and a community that cares, not a community that just wants to pump the price, because that's a pump and dump group. So community that cares, and then just collaborate with them. There's a lot of potential there. So we have an NFT department at IBC. We work with a lot of top tier projects, but we are starting to look at either projects that are kind of, the team is not able to build it up, or they've walked away and there's a community sitting there hanging. But if anyone's, understands what I'm trying to say and wants to collaborate on this, that's a really good reason to hit me up. But that's something that we're really interested in. People have tried doing this before. They've tried to do it with tokens. They go to token projects that launched and that didn't do too well. But that's much harder because you got to sort out the whole tokenomics and token structure and the token mechanics, which is very, very technical, very difficult. With NFTs, it's simpler until they launch a token, then it starts getting more complicated.
I think what's really interesting about NFTs is that anybody can come along at any time and bring value to any collection, right? If there's a collection out there that has died, meaning there's no volume, but people own these NFTs, that community can come together and create a DAO around that collection and say, all right, here's what's going to happen with this now. And we've seen that happen. And sometimes it could be easier to do that, to step in and help take over an existing collection and bring value than to go to the trouble of building something new, right? It's kind of like a refurbishing process.
Yeah. Yeah. So Joel, I think you get my strategy. You understand what I'm trying to say in a vague, cryptic way. But yes, absolutely. And, that's the whole purpose of DAOs, to get people together, to work together to a certain goal. Now, it can be through a DAO, or it could be just through a centralized traditional manner where you come in
right
and do what traditional companies do. And you look at private equity there.
The downside there, Mario, is if you take over a collection, unless you get the contract, right, the keys to that account, then you're not getting the secondary market revenue on reviving that collection. However, you could easily pick a collection and say, hey, everybody in this collection is getting, we're forking it to this new contract. And now I own, we hold the keys to that contract where all the volume is going to take place.
Yeah. So first, I want to say this is an experiment. Whether it works or not, we'll see. From a technical aspect, there is a solution to this that the team found. But it's definitely anyone that wants to do this needs to solve the issue that you mentioned. But it's also important to distinguish between, and I want to say this again, a community versus a pump and dump group. A community actually cares about the art, actually cares about the project, the vision, and they're sitting there, hold their NFTs, or in the case of projects with a token, the tokens, because they want to use them when the project launches, or they want to have the benefits, the utility of the NFT. Very hard to find such communities. A community that all they care about, and that, I'm sure you've been in those Telegram groups, and probably Discord is the same, where they keep posting those GIFs of to the moon and rockets and stuff.
Yeah.
That's not a community.
Old. It gets old. No, of course it's not. It's just people wanting to see their investment take off so they can cash out and leave. That is not a community.
That's a pump and dump group. They're people that want to pump it with their GIFs, which do the opposite, to be honest. And then when people get excited, they come in, they buy it, they're like, great, it's up, now I'm going to sell, and they disappear. And we see that all the time. Also, another thing I've seen as well that I want to mention, and I don't want to digress or talk too much, so I apologize, but I've seen something, and I made a tweet about this yesterday as well, was that the value of reputation now matters a lot more, because we've seen all these people that either rug pulled the project or just gave up on the project. So I've been personally, for example, I've never launched. I was there in the ICO hype, didn't launch an ICO. I had many opportunities to do so. Didn't launch a DeFi project, didn't launch an NFT project when it was like the easiest way to make money. And then and you guys understand what I'm saying here is the importance of reputation. I think that the value of building a reputation in the space, like you guys are doing with the podcast and what you've done in the space, what I've done in the space, and what I'm doing now with the show, is now being appreciated once you see what happens when a bear market hits. Because suddenly everyone that was active, everyone that was promising the world suddenly disappeared. Reality kicks in. And then the people that are still here and they're still, consistently doing the right thing, they tend to benefit in the next bull run. That's actually really important. Most of the people that were all the hype in 2017 and prior, most of them, not all of them, no longer exist. I remember a lot of these influencers, a lot of these thought leaders, no one listens to them anymore. Why? Because they screwed their followers, or they just disappeared in 2018. And then a very small number of them that actually kept consistently doing the right thing, they became the leaders in this cycle. And then we'll see this repeat. The people that will mess up in this cycle will lose out on the next cycle, but the people that keep doing the right thing will be able to build on top of their reputation over the next cycle.
Yeah, it's an interesting space, and it is definitely an interesting model. And with Web3, repetition does matter. And a lot of projects, pull back a little bit during this time because, like, wow, you don't really want to launch when the market sucks, but you do want to keep growing that. So let me ask you this: then you've seen a lot of different projects. What are some of the people doing that are building the best communities? Like, how are you seeing the best communities being built? What drives great community growth?
Yeah, it's not too complicated. I think first we'll see a lot of communities die out. So it's funny. You got all these communities that have big numbers in their Discords or Telegram groups, and they were active. You can look at the activity rate of a community, and they've got some impressive numbers. But as soon as the price starts going down, suddenly all the messages disappear. Why? Because all of them were price-based. So you'd look at a community that's still active and that's talking. I like communities that defend. Okay, so this is something interesting. What we're targeting right now for the show on Twitter Spaces, the way it works is you get people to speak. And when people speak, they have a big following, it pings their audience. Their audience can see it at the top and they join. So that's how Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse used to work that way. And that's, the incentive when you're hosting a show is to bring the biggest names. And the reason we got so big is we did get the biggest names. But what we found is some people have big follow account, but their community just didn't care about them, and projects as well. And then we've got others that have a significantly smaller number of followers, but incredible engagement. So we're starting to focus on bringing those people to the space, whether it's a project or a person. And then that goes back to your question, Travis, is that when you look at a community, look for a community that cares about the founder, that cares about the project, and that cares, if you're looking at an NFT, they care about the vision of the NFT. Bored Ape Yacht Club is the most obvious example. Look how much excitement there was towards the other side. I saw in a lot of my whale groups, people talking about it and making jokes how they got access and how they feel special about it. So these are the things that VCs, I put myself in that bucket, VCs would look for. And it's such a small number of projects that fit that description. It's concerningly small. I expected it to be small, but didn't expect it to be to get to that level.
People who are actually interested in the space and driving it forward are still here. 5 years ago, we started this show, and when we watched as the show, people got listeners. And then as crypto gained in popularity and the bull market's hitting, the opportunists arrive, and then the bear market hits and they scurry. They're like, well, I don't see money here anymore, so I'm going to go do something else. And, I won't name names, but Ty Lopez. So, I guess, and that's, and same thing in NFT, all the NFT influencers. Look, we've been creating in the space for 5 years. We've been minting NFTs. We're in our third year of minting NFTs, and we're not going anywhere. I don't care if the market is bullish or bearish. So if you want to know who to pay attention to, if they're here today and gone tomorrow when the opportunity is gone for the moment, those people are not to be trusted. That is not financial advice. That is human advice.
And do you remember, Joe, I don't know if you saw this, but so I'm around a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's funny how entrepreneurs tend to jump from one hype thing to another. IBC, so the first company I launched in crypto, we had a certain amount of competitors back in 2017. A lot of them were either shut down by the SEC or just completely disappeared. Do you remember a name, ICO Box? Do you remember that one or no?
I do remember hearing that. Yeah.
Where did they go? They were the biggest. They were the OGs of launching tokens. They had the name ICO Box were very early, and they've disappeared. And what happens? They don't just disappear. They go to the next thing, as you said. And back then it was cannabis. Everybody was getting into cannabis. And then I don't know what was after that. And then hoverboards were the thing. And then what happened is they got into masks. So suddenly all these entrepreneurs were like suppliers of COVID masks when COVID hit. And all these crypto groups became, no joke, became mask brokering groups. So we'll see this happen again. I don't know how long this bear market will last. And we get a lot of smart minds debating it on our show, and they don't agree what will happen next. I was looking at one of my groups today. One person saying it's going to go down to 4K. Another person saying we've hit the bottom. It's impossible to know. But if the bear market does take, as long as it did back in 2018, you'll see a lot of those entrepreneurs shift to psychedelics or the next sexy thing, but they'll miss out. They miss out on building a community. So how I look at a bear market, and I was talking to my team about it earlier, is just grabbing assets. What you guys are doing, what we're doing with the show, is we're grabbing attention.
Did you say you were going to grab asses? Because that's not this kind of show, Mario.
No, not in 2022, dude. You're gonna get canceled. That's an awful thing to do.
Okay, so grab assets with a T. So what you guys are doing is you're grabbing attention, as in attention of your audience. To be clear, and that's a very, very valuable asset. And look where you are today. And the reputation that you've built. Another thing you could do, VCs are just collecting tokens. So personally, I'm grabbing attention with the Roundtable. Our team, the NFT department of IBC, is just collecting NFTs, especially blue chips, because they're the lowest risk. I think there's still a fair bit of downside risk for some projects, but we're looking at the blue chips that have a really sexy story. Being the first is something that's generally sexy among us humans. I don't know why we like first of things. The first gun, the first wheel, the first car are all sitting in museums. And then, so we're looking at NFT projects that have that. And then the second thing that I got really wrong is the power of community. Even though I've talked about it for years, I didn't value the importance of community until Bored Ape Yacht Club proved me so wrong. And the value of community beat the value of being first, which is what CryptoPunk had. And then the token side of IBC, which is the main one since 2017, we don't care. And I said this to my CFO, we really don't care if we break even. It could be even a goal. Liquidity wise, we don't care if we break even. I'm not talking about any investment arm, just the business every month, as long as we're just collecting assets that will unlock, tokens. So the way tokens work, they're usually locked as a SAFT, and like any VC investment, and then they get unlocked over time. So just collecting assets with a T, in form of tokens. So that's how we're doing it: grabbing attention, grabbing assets with a T, and preparing ourselves for the next cycle. What about you guys? I know you guys are meant to ask me questions on the show, and I ask you questions on my show, but I'm actually curious. Like, is it just another day, or has your strategy shifted in any way? Because I know you have a portfolio as well.
Well, I think that there's a little more cautiousness in terms of what I'm investing in, but I'm not a trader. I'm not like okay, I'm going to sell at this point, and now I'm going to wait and get more at this point. That's too much stress for me. There's people that they make a lot of money doing that. But I think the hair loss, for me wouldn't be worth it. Lifestyle is way more important, and not having to pay attention all the time and constantly seeing now, because even once you sell, now you've got to be looking for your entry point again. So I'm like willing to ride it. I'm willing to let it go. If Bitcoin's going to go down to $6,000, fine. It's going to be back. And if for some reason they manage to destroy the crypto world, which I don't know how you do with Bitcoin because it's kind of unstoppable money, is it the end of life? No, life goes on. It's just money, and too many people put too much priority on accumulating more. And I'm talking about once you have your needs met. What's the difference, Mario, besides accumulating $1 million and 10 million? Well, you can buy a bigger house, you can buy a boat, you get a nicer car if you want, but does it really change your life?
The curse of wanting more. It's a tiring cycle. I'm a pure blood entrepreneur, and I've had this. So when you come from a poor background, you tend to be, it's not, in some cases, not everyone, just driven so much more because you never want to go back to where you were. And then a few years ago, I realized the toxicity of always wanting more. And you see that in crypto, and that's what leads to a lot of people getting wrecked because they're like, it's getting better, it's getting better. They want to keep playing the game until the music stops, and they can't admit like, hey, the music just stopped. Let me take a break. Let me, I made 600K. I didn't make 6 million. I didn't make 10 million. Let me enjoy my 600K, be happy. I, started with nothing and go. But no, they wanted more. They got greedy. And we saw that even with the smartest, for 3 Arrows Capital to declare bankruptcy, to be illiquid, was mind-boggling. Like, I didn't mind Celsius, I didn't mind Voyager, I didn't mind all these different DeFi plays with their APYs that didn't make sense. That was fine. That needed to happen. But 3 Arrows Capital, like for us VCs, and for anyone that doesn't understand, in the VC world, we had like on 2 hands, 10 fingers, is hundreds of VCs. 10 of them, or less than 10, would be top tier, that we all trust, we all follow. We build relationships with. If they invest, we invest. And if we're incubating a project, we want them to invest. Thankfully, they didn't invest in the last project we incubated. They almost did. Otherwise, we'd be screwed. It depends. If they did market making, we'd be screwed. But 3 Arrows Capital, for them to mess up the way they did, just purely based on greed, and they're intelligent founders, was like, I know you guys are Star Wars fans from memory. Like, imagine Star Wars completely stopping the franchise, saying, guys, we're going to be done. It's a big shock for the franchise.
Actually should have done that after the first. If they had done that after the first trilogy, we'd all be better off.
I'll give you a better example. Bored Ape Yacht Club, no joke. If you're looking at Bored Ape Yacht Club or Doodles or CryptoPunks, just completely shutting down their project, saying, guys, we messed up. It's not going to work. We're liquidating everything. And the punks or apes or whatever just collapse in value. That same feeling that you get as an NFT collector, VCs got when 3 Arrows Capital did what they did. We should have seen the writing on the wall. It was there if you knew what was happening behind the scenes. But yeah, greed makes gets the best out of all of us. And a lot of NFT traders actually listen to this. And you guys know this.
What about you, Trav? How has your strategy changed?
Well, I think that when the crypto summer's going on and everything's flush, and you're like, yeah, I'll put some investments into that. That looks good. Oh yeah, you're just a lot more cautious. You're just, it's like, well, it's wintertime. What do you do in the wintertime? You sort of, you winterfy, your place. You make sure there's no cracks, and all right, we got to stay warm through the winter. And so that's really what it is for me at this point, staying warm through the winter. And it's like, and I'm working on a project, and the market being down and the interest in some levels not being there, it's just kind of a challenge to try to launch a project at this particular time. So it's like trying to weather that storm as well and keep moving forward and keep innovating, because really it's just what it is at this point. It's like keep building, keep innovating, putting pieces of the puzzle together. And I think that when we get there, it'll be all good as we get through this, because you know what? All these crypto winters have always ended before, right? So we're probably another 12, 16 months away from the summer or the spring thaw, so as it were. But you know what? Hell, here we are right now, and Ethereum is up like almost 40% in the past week. So it's like we have had a nice little retrace. Is that just one of those dead cat bounces? Hard to say, but it's nice to see some green in the space and taking a look at it and going, oh, hey, this was actually a positive week. I gained. And so I know a lot of people are probably looking at it like that. I know that from the last winter that we were in, Mario, listeners died off. Like, nobody wants to talk about crypto when it's shitty, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to think about my portfolio. It's like, if I ignore it, maybe it will recover. And so what are you kind of experiencing now, and what do you think we're going to be looking at over here over the next 3 to 5 years as we get out of the crypto winter into the next bull run, into the next halving, Metaverse starting to take off more so, NFTs becoming more prevalent? Like, where is your firm, putting a lot of your focus in as we move forward?
Yeah, so I want to ask you a question first, Travis. You mentioned a really interesting point. You said in 2018, your listeners dropped off. So we're about the same time as like mid 2018 right now, in this bear market. And this is a very important question. Are you seeing the same drop as you did mid 2018, or is it better this time around?
I think it's better just because there's more people that are, following the space.
That's true.
Okay, so that's a very important point, and that's a very bullish indicator. Is that in 2018, everyone was saying that crypto's dead. Crypto.
Well, really think about it though. In 2018, really, the only thing that you could do with your crypto, for the most part, was buy into ICOs. Like, what are you going to do with your Ethereum there, right? Oh, you buy it into ICOs, pretty much. Like, that's all you. But now we have so many more functionalities and so many more products and ways to use our crypto that we did not have 4 years ago.
That's a very good point. Utilities at a whole different level. Like back then, everyone was excited when Bitcoin, I don't know if you remember, Bitcoin can now be used as a form of payment in Japan. And everyone gets fucking excited that Bitcoin can be used to pay for things. Like, that's cool as utility. But now you've got all these different aspects, from DeFi to NFTs to the open metaverse to tokenizing everything, tokenizing your identity, tokenizing in-game assets. Like, the list goes on. And these are practical use cases. Actually did allow people in certain countries to make money outside their country and not having to use websites like Upwork. So that's something that what weren't even close to back in 2017. And then the press, if you look at the press, I didn't know that until someone told me that some press is saying that crypto is dead. I didn't see that. But the arguments again, the same people that were saying crypto was dead in 2018 and blockchain is a fad and it's going to be centralized, partially centralized, are the people that are still active right now and investing right now. JP Morgan, they're extremely active right now. They're extremely bullish on crypto. Back then, Jamie Dimon and other JP Morgan executives were talking about how crypto's a fad and it's not exciting at all. So it's very dangerous to say this time is different. In some aspects, it isn't. Human nature is never different. Another time, 2001 .com bubble is different. And when it popped in 2001 is very different to the correction that we're seeing right now in tech stocks. The valuations are different. The correction is different. The reasons are different. And the same thing applies for crypto. The correction we're seeing right now is different in many aspects to what we saw in 2018. A lot of investors are not like, hey, this is a fad and we're going to move away and do the next thing. We're like, hey, it was overhyped. Now we're seeing a correction. Maybe now's a good time to enter. Or let's just hold off a bit longer, but deploy in the next few months or maybe next year. So the big investors, the big money is approaching it differently. Users are approaching it differently. Like you said, your listeners are not dropping off. We launched our show, the Roundtable, the Crypto Roundtable, 5 weeks ago. So in the peak of the bear market, near the bottom. So we were doing the show as Bitcoin and crypto was bottoming. And we're at week 6 now. So I don't think I could have done the Crypto Roundtable back in 2018 and get the amount of listeners we're getting now.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Back then it was just dead. Like Joel, there was no money flowing in. VCs were closing one after the other. I'm in a lot of VC groups. Now VCs are waiting. They're sitting on a lot of cash. They've raised, and Andreessen Horowitz raised the biggest crypto fund ever that closed maybe a month or two ago. And there was another one recently. So the money is sitting there this time. Back then, the money just disappeared. Back then, there were crickets. Now it's just people licking their wound and preparing for the next bull cycle. Now it's like when, before was if. 2018 was like, will this recover? Now is when will it recover?
Well, and I think that also these VCs, they're kind of drooling on the sidelines because they're seeing the things that are being built, and there's the FOMO. They don't want to miss out on that thing that's going to kill it. I saw a tweet that I saved as a photo to my computer here recently, to my phone, because this guy made the point that during 2008 to 2010, during that recession, here's the companies that were founded: WhatsApp, Venmo, Uber, Airbnb, Pinterest, Instagram, Slack, Square. And he finished with big problems create big opportunities. And so those big opportunities are revealing themselves right now. And so depending upon which ones people seize upon, these are tomorrow's millionaires and billionaires.
I'm going to make a tweet actually about this. Like, recession is when unicorns are founded or built. Recessions is when unicorns are built, and bull markets So bear markets is when unicorns are built. Bull markets is when fortunes are made.
There you go. I'll take that. And on that note, Mario, thanks for coming on, joining us today. Where can people tune in to what you're up to? Where would you like them to go?
Yeah, so usually whenever a show or a podcast asks me that question, I just say like Google me and just follow me if you're interested. But because I never, my other businesses, we don't have a retail audience. But now because I have a show, there's actually a reason. For the first time, I can end it with like, hey, come to my show, which is pretty cool. I've never done this before. So yeah, I do run a show on Twitter. So if you look up my name, Mario Nawfal, Nawfal, and just follow me, you'll see my pinned tweet is always the show. You can register. So every Thursday, and it's entertaining. Like tomorrow and on Thursday's one, we're gonna get the same person that caused a shit show last week, but we're gonna be more prepared in getting people to debate it. And we're gonna be debating, among other things, we're gonna talk about NFTs, in-game assets, but we're gonna debate Bitcoin. And he hates Bitcoin, like he despises it. He used to be a maximalist. Now he's like the biggest hater. And we're going to get him to debate with a Bitcoin maximalist. So that was one of the sexy segments. And we're going to talk about NFTs.
Well, we'll try to be there as well to partake in it. So, of course, this is going to air actually after that. But you guys just pay attention. Follow Mario Nawfal, Nawfal on Twitter. And this thing will happen with him every week. Thanks again, Mario. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
It wasn't even awful. We're still awful, but Mario's cool. We like you, Mario.
Yeah, that was really good. He has built something special over there, him and his team, and they keep churning it out, and people keep coming because he did it over on Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is pretty much dead at this point. I don't think they pivoted well enough. I mean, Clubhouse was the place to be during the pandemic because it gave people a place to sort of hang out, but it just makes a whole lot of sense that Twitter's this place to do that because it's just a nice little extra. Twitter got rid of Vine, but they added the Spaces element, which I think is pretty good.
And I don't think they're editing. They're not censoring Spaces, whereas Clubhouse has gone social justice warrior. And so if they don't like your content, they boot you. Yep, they boot you.
They tune in and boot you, huh? Wow.
Yeah,
okay. And then guess what? Go woke, go broke.
Yep. So, all right. That was a nice flash in the pan. Remember Clubhouse? I mean, right now we remember it's kind of like Blab was a flash in the pan, only they suicided differently. They just pulled the plug on it.
Yeah, they just popped the butt plug out and it was over. I mean, the blah. Never mind.
All right. Well, if you have not yet decided if you're coming to Puerto Rico to join us for the 5th anniversary party, you want to get your tickets, come join us. It is Saturday, August the 13th, 2022 at the Trav Villa in Luquillo, Puerto Rico. You go to badco.in/party, PARTY, and you can come
there's only
to
55 tickets, I believe, is what we
That's it. We're limiting it. And if you come to Travis's house and you use his toilet, you can be a party pooper.
It's true. There are multiple places to poop in the party. Actually, the outside party and then the inside one, but not the upstairs one because I don't want party poopers upstairs.
That's the private party pooper area that Travis.
I was thinking what I should do is like whenever you have kids, little babies, and you don't want them to go into the kitchen or whatever, you get like one of those little gates.
Yeah.
I guess what I have to do is I get one of those little gates, and put it on them by my stairs so nobody goes up and potty poops.
And give it a name. Call it Bill.
Actually, what I could do is I would put it up at the top of the stairs. So people, if they do want to walk up and look at the art, which is pretty cool on the stairway, they can look at it, but they can't potty poop.
Are you bragging about your material possessions like Richard Hart?
No, I wasn't. I was just saying that I got a really cool piece of art from this lady from her name's Milena Blackman. She did this Joe Rogan piece. It was like No Ordinary Joe, and she drew this thing and by pen, and it's just a huge canvas. And then she did 50 prints, and I was like, dude, I love that so much because there's a big wall that I had nothing for. I was like, that would look so cool right there. So it's just really cool. There's so much detail in it. There's like 50 different guests on it. So it's pretty cool.
I've seen it. It is cool. And if you guys come to,
but it's nothing like my 5 Lambos and my 18 Rolexes that I have. Right. I mean, look at them. Ching, ching, ching. I have no Rolexes. Actually, I don't care about that shit.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We do appreciate you very much. And I noticed there's no new reviews this week. You know who you are out there.
Suck it. You know why? Because it's crypto winter. People are like, screw this crypto shit.
I mean, there's been a little bit of a bounce this week from being down, and I watched a great video yesterday, and it was about a guy talking how we, in the cycles, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 is that last run up before a cycle starts again. And he made the point that I've been making for months, is that we have not hit the last push on this bull run. He went through all his charts and looked at the previous runs and the time gaps and the charting and the lows and the high, all the weird things.
That seems bullshit to me, because it's never been, the bull run in 2017 wasn't the bull run of 2017 and 2018. It previously, before that, it wasn't the bull run of 2012 and 2013, right? So it's like it's nice in theory. And I'm just saying, I do prefer seeing Ethereum at $1,600 more than I prefer it at 900 something.
Yeah, 900 sucks.
So I'm not going to complain. I'm down.
He's calling 100K this year still. He said, and who knows? It's just another dude charting.
That's good. Here's the thing. That's awesome. I don't think I told you this yet, but so I have had a ledger when I moved here, and I think I did tell you I couldn't find my ledger.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, that's no big deal. You got your keywords, your key phrase, and I was like,
right.
Yeah, but it's like it's because with that whole move, it's like it's somewhere. And this week when I was back in Kansas City, I found my key phrase. And so I was like, oh,
I'm glad to hear that, man.
Yeah. So my number of 55 Bitcoins lost did not increase.
That's good. That's good. We don't want that to happen to you.
Yeah, that would have been sad news.
We love you, Travis.
That'd have been bad news, but that'd be like the real kind of bad news, not the bad news that we do whenever we do bad news.
It'd be real bad. So anyway, there's somebody out there who's feeling guilty for listening to our content for free and not having reviewed us yet, not having given us a 5-star review. You know who you are, and your guilt is just going to multiply throughout the day. You won't be able to sleep tonight. You're going to wake up in the middle of the night crying because you haven't made the review. Then you're going to go make it. Like, those motherfuckers won't let me sleep. 1 star. But if you are so inclined, please do go give us a review. We like to hear from you most of the time.
Yeah, that's so true. And then, oh, by the way, badcrypto.uncut.fm. If you want to grab one of those NFTs, so we'll be dropping some cool NFT stuff on that. Already several people have signed up for that bad boy. And it's just going to give you some just additional content and additional NFT drops. And it's kind of a fun thing to do. It's good. Let's check it out.
Indeed it is. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Until then, you know what your marching orders are. You have one job, and that is to stay bad.
Corny.
No, we're not changing the end of the show just because of corn.
It's the Corn Crypto Podcast.
You're corny. Stay bad.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.
That's very true. I can't help it. It's been like this my whole life. They tried to beat it out of me, but they couldn't.
What's that?
They tried to beat the funny out of me, in school, right? They were like, I come from that final era where they would beat the kids' asses in school, and I was a little too funny sometimes. It was, basically what it was unacceptable behavior, like, Travis, unacceptable. And then like they would call my mom and be like, Travis, he's disruptive, and she's like, well, is he getting his homework done? She's like, yeah, he gets his homework done really quick, and then he just makes jokes. I was like, oh, well, are they funny? Sometimes. Not always. That's okay.